Las Vegas Raiders star pass rusher Maxx Crosby recently appeared on a podcast where he was asked some interesting questions. One of them was about his future with the team. The host basically asked, "Are you 100% committed to the Raiders, or are you thinking about leaving?" There have been plenty of rumors and reports about Crosby's future, and his answer was quite interesting. He admitted that two main issues are affecting his decision. Let's hear what he had to say, and then we'll break it down. Crosby explained that the first issue is his contract, which still needs to be worked out. The second issue is the team's plan for the future. He said he has already had discussions with the front office, the head coach, the GM, and the owners about what direction the team is heading in. Crosby made it clear that he wants to win and is thinking long-term. He knows he won't play forever, especially with the aggressive way he plays. He wants to be part of a winning culture, not just chase an easy Super Bowl ring by joining a top team like the Chiefs. At the end of the day, Crosby's goal is clear. He wants to win a Super Bowl and make it to the Hall of Fame. He's taking things step by step, but for the Raiders, the real question is simple. What's their plan to win a championship? Maxx Crosby made it clear. He doesn't want to chase a Super Bowl by joining another team. He wants to win with the Las Vegas Raiders. But at the same time, he mentioned the Chiefs, which shows he knows how many players leave to join winning teams like the Chiefs or Bills just to get a ring. Crosby's message is simple. If the Raiders aren't serious about building a championship team, he might not be around in 4 or 5 years. That's completely fair. Every player wants to win, and Crosby is no different. One big issue he talked about is his contract. We've already discussed this, but let's break it down again. Crosby signed a contract with the Raiders that runs from 2022 to 2026, but here's the problem. In 2025 and 2026, there's no guaranteed money left. They could cut or trade him with. That's why we're seeing so many rumors about his future. Crosby wants a new contract, and this isn't just about a pay raise. He wants long-term security. So the big question remains. Will the Raiders commit to him, or will he start looking for a new team? Maxx Crosby isn't just looking for a small raise. He wants a long-term deal. He's one of the top 5 players at his position, and the best players in his role make around $31 million per year. Right now, Crosby is making much less than that, which means he's severely underpaid. When he first signed his contract, it was worth about $23.5 to $24 million per year. But even back then, he could have asked for over $30 million. He took a smaller deal at the time, but now he deserves more guaranteed money and a pay raise. If I were Mark Davis, I'd do everything I could to keep Crosby happy. He's only 27 years old in his prime and could be locked in with the Raiders for the rest of his career. Plus, the team looks like it's heading in the right direction, and having Crosby under contract would only help the Raiders in the long run. The question is, can they afford to pay him? Right now, the Raiders have $108 million in cap space. If Crosby gets a new contract, his salary could jump from $28 million to around $32 million per year. That means an extra $4 to $5 million this year and another $10 million over time. His base salary is currently around $22 million, so to keep him long-term, the team would need to restructure his contract. There are even rumors that Crosby might hold out if he doesn't get a new deal. While nothing is confirmed yet, it's clear that he has mentioned his contract several times. The Raiders need to take care of him. Of course, winning matters too. Crosby wants to know what the team's plan is for the future. And honestly, the Raiders' plan looks better than ever. Hiring Tom Telesco was a great move, and Mark Davis seems to be making smarter decisions. Plus, it looks like Tom Brady may have some influence behind the scenes. So now the big question is, will the Raiders commit to Crosby and prove they are serious about winning? The future of the Raiders looks bright. John Spytek is seen as one of the smartest minds in the NFL, and many believe he is the future of the league. Even Maxx Crosby seems to think so. In a recent interview with Pro Football Talk, Chris Sims shared that Crosby has had doubts about whether the Raiders are the right team for him to win a championship. However, after speaking with Tom Brady, Pete Carroll, and John Spytek, Crosby now believes the team is heading in the right direction. This is the most optimistic I've been. Maxx Crosby. That's a huge statement, and it shows that the Raiders are finally making smart moves. Smart leadership changes. In the last month, the Raiders have made big decisions to improve the team. They brought in John Spytek, who has the potential to be the next Howie Roseman, one of the best general managers in the NFL. They moved on from some coaches like Antonio Pierce, Luke Getsy, and Scott Turner. They added proven winners like Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly to the coaching staff. All of this sets the team up for long-term success. Maxx Crosby's contract situation. Now the big question is, will the Raiders take care of Maxx Crosby? Some fans might say, Maxx signed a contract 3 or 4 years ago, he should honor it. But the NFL doesn't work like that anymore. Other players are getting big raises and more guaranteed money, so it makes sense for Maxx to expect the same. At the end of the day, if the Raiders want to win, they need to keep their best player happy. The Raiders just made another big coaching move. They hired Joe Woods as their defensive pass game coordinator. Woods is a respected defensive coach who has been a defensive coordinator twice in his career, most recently with the New Orleans Saints. He will now join Pete Carroll's staff in Las Vegas, bringing a strong defensive mind to the team. Why is this important? Joe Woods has led several top-ranked defenses. In past seasons, his defenses have ranked as high as 8th in points allowed and top 5 in yards allowed. That's impressive. While his overall stats may not be elite, he has consistently built solid defenses. The good news? The Raiders aren't hiring him as a defensive coordinator. They're bringing him in specifically to improve the pass defense. Woods is known for being an expert in coaching defensive backs, and his experience will help the secondary get better. How does this fit with the Raiders? Woods will be working closely with Patrick Graham, who remains the Raiders' defensive play caller. Instead of replacing Graham, Woods will help develop better coverage schemes and strengthen the pass defense. This is an area where the Raiders have struggled, so bringing in a pass defense specialist makes a lot of sense. Last season, the Raiders had experienced coaches, but it didn't lead to much success. This year, things feel different. These new coaches aren't just Antonio Pierce's connections. They are proven winners with specific expertise. With Pete Carroll, Patrick Graham, and Joe Woods working together, the Raiders' defense could take a big step forward this season. The Raiders just made another big coaching move. They hired Joe Woods as their defensive pass game coordinator. Woods is a respected defensive coach who has been a defensive coordinator twice in his career, most recently with the New Orleans Saints. He will now join Pete Carroll's staff in Las Vegas, bringing a strong defensive mind to the team. Why is this important? Joe Woods has led several top-ranked defenses. In past seasons, his defenses have ranked as high as 8th in points allowed and top 5 in yards allowed. That's impressive. While his overall stats may not be elite, he has consistently built solid defenses. The good news? The Raiders aren't hiring him as a defensive coordinator. They're bringing him in specifically to improve the pass defense. Woods is known for being an expert in coaching defensive backs, and his experience will help the secondary get better. How does this fit with the Raiders? Woods will be working closely with Patrick Graham, who remains the Raiders' defensive play caller. Instead of replacing Graham, Woods will help develop better coverage schemes and strengthen the pass defense. This is an area where the Raiders have struggled, so bringing in a pass defense specialist makes a lot of sense. Last season, the Raiders had experienced coaches, but it didn't lead to much success. This year, things feel different. These new coaches aren't just Antonio Pierce's connections. They are proven winners with specific expertise. With Pete Carroll, Patrick Graham, and Joe Woods working together, the Raiders' defense could take a big step forward this season. How Maxx Crosby became a Raider. This is a crazy story about how Maxx Crosby ended up with the Las Vegas Raiders, and it all started with one man, Jeff Leonardo. Jeff wasn't a scout. He wasn't a coach. He was just the guy who drove John Gruden to work every day. Jeff never said much, but one day he walked in and said, "There's a guy from Eastern Michigan, Maxx Crosby. You need to check him out." At first, Gruden didn't think much of it, but then, 2 weeks later, Jeff brought him up again. "That Maxx Crosby guy is better than all these players." Gruden still didn't take it seriously. The Raiders were already planning to draft Clelin Ferrell with the 4th pick, and they were signing other defensive ends. But Jeff kept pushing for Crosby. Maxx Crosby knew he'd be a Raider. During the NFL Combine, something happened. Mike Mayock, the Raiders' GM at the time, couldn't hide his excitement when Maxx ran the 40-yard dash. Right then, Maxx knew he was going to be a Raider. Even before the draft, Crosby texted his friend saying, "The Raiders have picks 103 and 106. They better take me tomorrow." And sure enough, at pick 106, Maxx heard John Gruden's voice on the phone. "I'm your guy," Crosby told him. From underdog to superstar. At rookie orientation, Gruden showed a video of Maxx working out at Eastern Michigan. The guy wasn't the strongest. He was benching just 135 pounds. Gruden joked, "This dude needs to get stronger." But then they turned on his game film and everything changed. Maxx Crosby was a beast. Now he's one of the best defensive players in the NFL, and it all started with Jeff Leonardo, the quiet driver who never gave up on him. What a story!